Good afternoon, Rich Nass, Executive Vice President with Open Systems Media and leader of the Embedded Computing Design franchise. Here for yet another video sponsored by PICMG, where we're talking about COM-HPC. In a few weeks, hopefully a few weeks, we'll be seeing the introduction of the COM-HPC specification, which is a specification for COM modules, computer on modules, where we're taking the performance of COMs to a significantly higher level. This is one video of 8. In this video, I have the pleasure of having 2 speakers, both from University of Bielefeld, and they are based in the northern part of Germany. I'm going to start off with Jens Hagemeyer. He's a research associate there. Hello, Jens. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine.
Very good. So your presentation that you're sharing with Martin is called Management for COM-HPC. What does that mean exactly when you talk about management?
So yeah, I'm basically giving a brief introduction about the COM-HPC management architecture. So basically how you are controlling, monitoring and managing the module. That is what we developed in a separate subgroup of COM-HPC.
Well, that's perfect. But before we start the presentation, I'd like to introduce Martin as well, so the audience knows who he is, and we can figure out what he's going to be talking about. Well, hello, Martin. Very good to see you as well. Can you explain what your part of the presentation will entail?
Yes, hi. My presentation will be about heterogeneous computing. So using COM-HPC modules, not only with processors which are based on x86 architectures, but with modules with chips of different kinds. I mean, FPGAs or GPU architectures.
Thanks, Rich. Welcome everyone again. I'm Jens, and I will give a brief introduction into the COM-HPC management architecture. After this, my colleague Martin will talk about the heterogeneous computing on COM-HPC. With COM-HPC, we changed the management architecture compared to COM-Express. In COM-Express, which was introduced 15 years ago, we saw a module-centric management architecture. The related PICMG specifications, the EEP, the embedded EEPROM specification, and the API, the management API, were reflecting this. So from COM-Express, which has this module-centric management architecture, we are traversing to COM-HPC, which basically should support a multi-module architecture. So it should not just be one module, but multiple modules on one carrier. We should have an out-of-band management architecture or management capabilities, as well as a direct BMC support on the carrier, which was not the case for COM-Express. So this were basically the requirements, and the architecture basically reflects this. So from a basic point of view, it's very similar to COM-Express as it's shown here. You have the carrier as well as one module. This is nothing but the COM-Express way. You are then able to add a BMC on the carrier, which allows you the possibility to have basic monitoring, basic IKVM on the carrier. On the module, you can then add a MMC, which is a module management controller. So we are basically defining a hierarchical structure here, having a management component on the module as well as on the carrier. So on the module, the MMC, on the carrier, the BMC. Using this approach, it can then be easily extended to multiple modules on one carrier, each with its own MMC, and which are then connected to the BMC via basically IPMI. So each of these modules has its own IPMI connection to the BMC. That basically means that we are looking at a number of options for both modules as well as carriers. So we have defined within these specifications 3 types of modules. The unmanaged one for both the module as well as the carrier. The managed carrier, which that includes a BMC, a board management controller, and 2 types of options for the module. A basic management capability with an MMC, a module management controller included, and a module with full management capabilities, so a that has a full blown MMC included on the module. So that gives you basically 3 times 2, so 6 options. And we have a feature, so you can draw a feature matrix from this, which is shown here. For the unmanaged carrier, you basically don't have a lot of options, but what is always there is the EEPROM, which is accessible via E2C, and which enables you to basically have basic identification for the carrier as well as the module, as well as a basic feature list. So that is always there, and that was also there for COM-Express. The details are specified in the EEP, the embedded EEPROM specification that I was talking about before. Then for the managed case, so the one where you have a managed carrier, and you are plugging one of the managed modules, so including a module management controller and an MMC as well. You can have either the basic one, which then allows you to have IPMI, either via IPMB, so that is the basic component, or you can actually share the Ethernet connection of that module so that you will have a much faster IPMI connection. So that will allow you to have faster or very fast monitoring from the MMC towards the BMC. In addition to that, you can always have IKVM via dedicated PCI Express or USB connection from the module to the carrier, and from that carrier, so from the BMC, you always have then the connection to the external world either via Redfish or for legacy use also via IPMI. So to have this stated clearly, IPMI is used internally as a connection from the BMC towards the MMC, so from the carrier to the module, towards the outside, so from the carrier to the rest of the system. We are preferring to use Redfish, which is also part of the specification, but IPMI is used as a, let's say, legacy option. When we are looking at the management-related interfaces of COM-HPC, so the interfaces that the module, not the carrier, but the module provides, first have the IPMI, which basically provides you with monitoring, control, as well as inventory features. You have the IPMB, which is dedicated for exactly this purpose, as well as said before, you can also share the Ethernet connection, the N-base T0 for this, that gives you much higher bandwidth and much fastest but much more speed on the IPMI interface. And you have the KVM related interfaces, things like dedicated PCI Express lane for the BMC, which, for example, allows you to have a graphics card emulated on the BMC, as well as USB and eSPI. Additional features such as I2C, which can be used, for example, for the EEP, GPIO, which can be used, for example, as a trigger for measurement or monitoring features, or UART, which can be used, for example, for debugging, so a serial terminal basically, are available as well, and can be used according to the vendor specification basically. So a typical management or a typical scenario or architecture of a module would look like this. We have the COM-HPC carrier that includes a BMC, so it's a managed carrier, and COM-HPC module with basic management capabilities. As we can see here, we have the IPMB connection connecting the BMC and the MMC, as well as the I2C connection, which was there for COM-Express as well, having the EEP connected. And then here we have the central CPU, which has the connection for the IKVM functionality. So here we are seeing a scenario with 2 modules on one carrier. We have the managed carrier as before, with the BMC included. We have the the module including the full management capabilities, as well as a module that has basic management capabilities. What we see here is that the module that has the full management capabilities has this integrated switch here, so it shares the Ethernet connection 0 for data coming from the CPU as well as data coming from the MMC. So it has these high-speed IPMI connection from the MMC to the BMC, while the module with just the basic management capabilities does not have this feature, and it has the Ethernet connection directly connected to the CPU. A couple of words also to Redfish and COM-HPC. So as said, we are recommending Redfish as the external management interface. IPMI may be supported as well, but it's considered as a legacy interface. Nevertheless, it's used for internal communication between the modules, so the MMC, and the carrier, so the BMC. The specification defines a Redfish, a couple of Redfish schemas for COM-HPC. So it's basically the case that the carrier is represented as a chassis resource, and the modules are then represented as a chassis, as a separate chassis resource, as well as a computer system resource. And the BMC is then represented as a manager resource. For all, we have examples available. We have JSON mockups that you can try even without hardware in your browser, and they are available for download. I was also mentioning the EEPS, the embedded EEPROM specification. This was taken from COM-Express and extended for COM-HPC. So there's now a EEPS specification for COM-HPC. It defines new profiles for COM-HPC modules as well as carriers, and the data is available either via I2C, so the classic COM-Express way, or via IPMB. We have defined a conversion routine from EEP to IPMI through, which is also available in the specification. And that can be used, so it's very useful for automatic feature discovery, automatic interface configuration for both the module as well as the carrier. Okay, so as a summary, the COM-HPC platform management interface specification is an addendum to the COM-HPC specification. So the main specification provides a framework for platform management features as well as the architecture for this. It adds the interoperability between COM-HPC modules and carrier boards, and adds BMC and MMC functionality, as well as in-band and out-of-band management. We are promoting Redfish, as said, but having the legacy option for IPMI. And that's all from my side. For the next part of the tutorial, I will hand over to Martin.
I will talk about the new features that allow using COM-HPC with heterogeneous computing architectures. Also, I will briefly present our research on systems with support for multiple COM-HPC modules. As Jens mentioned before, the last revision of COM-Express was about 8 years ago, targeting mainly x86 processors. In the meantime, many other alternative target architectures, for example, processors based on ARM or RISC-V instruction sets, have been developed, which are increasingly competing with classical x86 processors. Apart from processors, a new class of computing devices evolved, system-on-chip devices which combine ARM-based processors with GPUs or FPGAs. Especially these massively parallel processing devices offer a high acceleration and increased energy efficiency for emerging application domains like AI, computer vision, or 5G. So it was clear for us where the journey with COM-HPC should go. We want to support all these target architectures to cover the widest possible range of application domains. The new COM-HPC specification completely uses open standards and interfaces, which are supported by all target architectures. Apart from the fact that there are many more PCI Express lanes in COM-HPC than COM-Express, a COM-HPC module can also be used as a PCI Express endpoint or target device. This allows us to couple different modules of heterogeneous kinds to create highly flexible architectures. The following examples show us two possible architectures which use 3 COM-HPC modules. In the upper picture, there is one central CPU, a GPU on the left, and an FPGA on the right side, which are used as accelerators or energy efficiency boosters for the CPU. In the second use case, the FPGA, left FPGA, is used as a double endpoint. So it's targeted by the CPU as well as the second FPGA. The second FPGA is acting as a target and as a root complex at the same time. At our research group at Bielefeld University in Germany, we have a long history in heterogeneous computing. We actually have built servers for cloud computing and data centers, which can house up to 27 COM-Express modules in just 3 rack units. So for heterogeneous computing, we used to self-developed COM-Express modules based on ARM or FPGA chips. And now we are really excited to use COM-HPC as a new base for our developments because it gives us a complete new level of performance and much more flexibility. In the European-funded project Legato, which just ended last month, we developed a multi-module carrier in the extended ATX format. It supports 1 COM-HPC server module and 2 client modules. Together with Trans-Electronic, also a member of the COM-HPC committee, we designed 2 FPGA-based modules, one with an Intel FPGA and the other with a current Xilinx SoC. And now we are really looking forward to not only see our FPGA modules in action on third-party carriers, but also to test other targeting architectures like RISC-V, which will hopefully come soon. I hope that Jens and I could give you a good overview about the new management features and the non-x86 support for COM-HPC. Feel free to email us if you have any questions.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. That was a really good presentation and a really good answer to my question. And for those of you out in the audience, I encourage you to look at all the other videos that we've done, as each of them looks at a different aspect of the COM-HPC spec.